Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Amanda Kaufman Show. You're here again with another double Kaufman episode. My name's Rebecca, also a Kaufman, and I am joining Miss Amanda here today. Hello, Amanda. And we basically just wanted to jump in and talk about memberships inside of your business. Amanda, just remind me, how many memberships have you actually launched and ran?
7 so far. I'm on membership number 7.
Dang. Okay. And would you say memberships are a big proponent of the business that your clients are working on, or is it aspirational for them? Where do memberships fit in with people that you help typically?
When I'm working with somebody, often they see the lure of monthly recurring revenue and they are like, that sounds really good. I like that. They also see that memberships are typically like a lower price point. So they think, oh, that would be better. But the people that I'm often working with are typically premium providers. So they've usually are offering like high ticket coaching or consulting, something that's fairly premium that does require a conversation in order to enroll. And there's a little bit of a siren song attached to memberships. So I think it's worth talking about.
Okay, amazing. So, in today's episode, I think it's fair to say we're going to go through, the obvious benefits, the pitfalls, the mistakes you see people make the most often, and when is the right time to launch your first one. Is that fair to say?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay, so when it comes to memberships, you mentioned that you've had 7. Can you just tell me a little bit more about that? Where did that fit in your business? And do you have them all running? Are they shut down? What's the status of all these different memberships?
Yeah. So I've launched 7 and I've meaningfully run 5. And right now I have 1. This is not concurrent. So I've been an entrepreneur for 9 years. So I remember finding out about the membership model and I almost immediately was like, I've got to do this. And so I did, and I launched, and guess what? I actually sold a seat into the membership. The problem is that I didn't have any other seats sold. So I processed a refund and this individual ended up working with me in a more private capacity and all was well. So about 9 months later, I was like, time to try again. I'm older and I'm wiser. So I did it again and I sold 1. And once again, I needed to call that person back and explain that we're not going to proceed with a membership of 1. However, we ended up working privately together. So, it was kind of a funny way to start. And honestly, those first 2 failures scared me out of it for a good 18 months.
Mm.
And then the next one I did, the third try, was actually pretty good. I made multiple sales. I was even able to fill it up with cold traffic, if you can believe that. So that's advertising, right? And then here's the problem though, is that I was running the membership, multiple courses, a mastermind, private coaching, live intensives. I'm doing all the things. And I was looking at my calendar one day and I was like, gotta be real. That membership doesn't make as much money as all these other things do. And I could really use 3 hours back or whatever I was putting towards that membership. So I shut it down. And I've
Mm.
got a few of those decisions that I made in earlier business that I look back and I want to shake myself. Shutting down that membership was actually one of them. So I was membership
Interesting.
less for about 18 more months.
Sounds like a pattern here.
Yeah. And it's like, every 18 months to 2 years, I come to my senses on something. So I decided, let's do it again. So I launched iteration number 4. Now you got to remember, all of these memberships were effectively to do the same thing, which was to help entrepreneurs to attract more clients. That was basically the central thesis of every single one of them. And so the next time I did it, and it kicked off pretty well. I had a very clever method that I used to enroll my first 20 or so members. But then it kind of stalled out and I really didn't have a good engine to keep that one kind of growing. And then I realized I was like, oh, it's because I don't know how to talk about it. So this time I was a little smarter. Instead of shutting down the membership, I pivoted. So I just rebranded the one that was running. And I rebranded it into more of an identity play. So it's like people like us do this is something that a really famous marketer, Seth Godin, said. And I was like, cool, we're gonna be people like this. And so I kind of tried to do more of an identity play in the positioning of the membership, which did not work hardly at all. I got some new enrollments, but it was just like I learned something really important about branding, right? So I branded it the Courageous Coach Club. So Rebecca,
Okay.
what's the opposite of courageous?
Scared?
Scared, right? And when we're scared, we don't like take action much, right?
Mm.
So the thing I learned about branding is that so often it's about the aspiration. It's like where we want to go. So it wasn't attracting the person who was where I wanted to start. It was attracting somebody like way earlier in their journey. So I realized that and still smart. So I didn't shut it down, but I pivoted one more time. And that time I moved to more of an outcome based positioning. So in that case, it was the first 5 club, and everybody was in the club was there to get their first 5 clients. So everybody was on the same
Makes
song
sense.
sheet. Yeah, everybody was like, and credit where it's due. I finally worked with a mentor in memberships. I worked with Mara Glazer, and she's just a genius copywriter that's been a part of my story for a long time. And yeah, hey Mara, but she has her program, the Million Membership Millionaire. Totally recommend it. And yeah, that was the next one. And then now I've got Claire Venue Inner Circle. So it's just been all the things. Yeah. So 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, can you I have a few questions from that. Can you first off delineate like what makes a membership versus all the other offerings that it sounds like you were running simultaneously? Like what makes a membership really distinctive?
Well, that's such a great question. So membership meaning like to be a member, you have to pay. So we actually have memberships in our life that we're pretty used to usually. So it's things like joining Costco. Now you're part of the membership and you get certain benefits because you have that membership. It's usually a lower ticket thing. So it's usually not super expensive to enroll. It's meant to last for a long time. People are pretty used to, for example, having a gym membership, right? And so when you're a member, it gives you access to use those facilities. That's the benefit of the membership. So you're selling membership into a community typically, and it means that because you're an insider, you get access to certain things that you won't get if you're not inside.
Got it. And so it's easier access point for people, doesn't necessarily require that sales call like you were mentioning. So I could see the appeal of it for sure. I guess from your perspective, what would you consider your most successful membership and what was the driving factor for that?
So my most successful is by far the Claire Venue Inner Circle. So this podcast is actually sponsored by Claire Venue, and I believe we have a word from our sponsor right now.
Welcome to one of my first ads for Claire Venue. Yep. It took me about 3.5 years to do my very first ad in my first company. So I figure if I waited 3 months for this company, I'm already doing a lot faster. But yeah, so why do an ad? Well, because we show you how to use systems, and all an ad, my friend, is a system for getting the word out. And if you're really curious about how you could use systems more effectively in your business, then we should get to know each other better. And you should come check out the Inner Circle, where we marry the coaching and the wisdom and the motivational stuff with like actual brass tacks of systems to help you acquire clients and help you to not go crazy when you are a team of one or a few. All right, my friend, we'll get back to the episode. We'll see you soon.
There you have it.
Artfully done. I like it. I like it. Okay. So you mentioned that the inner circle right now is your most successful one. Why?
Several things. So I learned from the past and I made it very outcome based. We're about getting and enrolling more clients with more peace, right? I think the second thing that I got really clear about is what is it that my average member actually wants? So every business owner wants more business. They want more customers and more clients. Like that's not really a big key differentiator. But what I did differently is I thought about the feelings that this avatar has, and I designed the community and the solution around addressing the feeling. So often for business owners, we're looking for relief. And
Mm,
so when I designed the community, I was thinking about, okay, how can I offer these solopreneurs, or I call them like solo pluspreneurs. So these are people who probably are making sales, they're hustling, they're wearing all the hats. They might have an assistant. They often are underutilizing that assistant, but they're not in this place yet where they've got scaled up marketing, they've got a sales team that can sell on their behalf. They're still doing a lot of things really manually. And so because of that, they are running around hair on fire a lot. And so then I was
Mm.
like, well, how can I offer them relief? And the membership being a really great vehicle, because how can I offer them relief without breaking the bank? And so it gives, and it's this beautiful thing where it's a win-win-win kind of an offer, because you can self-study, which means you don't have to pay me for my personal time. You get community, which means that you don't feel like you're alone anymore as you're building the business. We have cadence and rhythm, so that increases your accountability because you're looking forward to participating in the events that are put on by this community. So there's like a lot of things that I put into it. And I was very specifically thinking this time, I was like, what tools can I include? Because now we're in this AI world. And so we have
Mm.
Clairvenue OS, which is the technology. So we can actually, because of your membership in the inner circle, we can actually eliminate a lot of the software subscription costs that you have. Otherwise, we can eliminate the need for you to necessarily be in the most expensive masterminds. And it's a win for me because then I get the benefit of being able to facilitate this community. I get the benefit of it's a recurring revenue model. So it gives me more stability that I can actually show up in a really beautiful, heartful way. And it lowers the pressure for everyone who's a member because I'm not reliant on like 5 clients, you know? In order
Mm.
for this to not work, I've got to piss off 30 people at once. And that's pretty tough. So I'm really excited about growing it, so that there's even more benefit and value. And I think I've just learned a lot of things along the way that make that really appealing.
Well, and I hear all the appeal that like a member might have, but what's the appeal for you personally? Like I'm hearing stability in income. Are there any other benefits for having a membership inside of your business?
Absolutely. So, when there's a strong community in your business, number one, you can rely on some of those members of your community. You don't have to go so far and wide to find people that have, the expertise or the connection. So that's super beneficial. I actually really love group coaching. Like that's one of my favorite things in all the land. I like the energy of it. I love hosting that. And I don't have anything on the calendar yet. And I'm looking forward to hosting live events. And I think the thing is that if you set up the program as being very cost prohibitive to join, or you have this requirement that you've got to be super profitable before people actually get to experience your brand. I think the other reason I'm really excited about it as a business owner is Clairvenue is my second business. And something that I really wanted to establish with this one versus how I did my first one is I want there to be this longevity. I want there to be this stability. So leading with the recurring revenue, it's not just the revenue, it's the rhythms of showing up and it's getting out of that peak and valley behavior. And like Clairvenue as a brand is all about relationship and connection and reliability through systems. Like that's the whole central thesis of the whole thing. So down the road, I may bring on other things as well. But for right now, I'm very dialed and focused on this membership because I see it as being such a good benefit to the customer, which makes it a really good benefit for me.
Yeah. Well, and something I want to highlight there too is I think you use different wording for it, but it really does act as a bit of a taste test almost, like a little dip your toe in the water moment for that person who might be considering you for deeper work, but they want to get to know you better before they make that commitment or are ready to have that conversation. I know I experienced that in your other company as well because, when people see you walk the walk, like that trust is just instantly built, I have to say, especially if you're going to show up really, really well for a membership like this. It makes sense to me.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree. This is a really good moment for our second ad.
Check out my company. I sponsored the show. Okay, bye.
I'm sorry. God. Oh, you're funny. Okay. Whew, funny. So we were talking about the memberships being a bit of a taste test. We're hyping up these memberships. They sound amazing. What are some of the pitfalls of a membership like this? Like, what are people maybe not considering when they try this out for the first time?
Oh gosh, I'll tell you what I didn't consider. So the first thing I didn't consider and honestly tanked the first two attempts was I didn't consider that I really didn't have an audience or a means of growing one. So I felt really conflicted about this because to be honest, when I launched my first business like at first, I really did not have a lot of contacts. I didn't have a lot of supporters. It was kind of
Yeah.
this thing that when I brought it up to my existing network, it felt like it was really out of left field. And so but I was successful. And the reason I was so successful was not because of a membership. It was because I chose to do a premium service for people who could afford it. And so that's what I did. And so I assumed that because I had made money, that it would be very easy to make money at a lower level. And that's not, I think, a good assumption. The
Like, if I
reason
can sell like a $5,000, $10,000 thing, I can sell a $99 thing, like, no big deal.
Yeah, I mean it's a reasonable logic leap, and it's also just not the way of the world. And the reason being is that when you're working with a premium, it really comes down to like the clarity of who is your avatar and how do you make sure that you continue to meet that person and versions of that person. And the thing is if you've got different audiences, and this is actually a mistake that I repeated through memberships 4, 5, and 6 was this disconnect of my membership was serving one audience and my premium services were serving a different audience. And
Mm.
one of the strategic decisions I made with Claire Venue that so far has really paid off is I serve the same person. So when I do and I credit where that's due, I worked with Tom Bilyeu really closely in his $1 billion CEO program, and he talks a lot about this having the straight line. And the straight line is basically like from the moment they meet you to the first transaction to the next and the ascension. Is that a straight line? And the answer for me up through membership number 6 was like, yeah, not really. No, I was getting a little better at having a straight line between the membership and escalating into like premium services with number 6, but it still wasn't exactly the same person. And so the conversion from one to the other was just always really constrained. And when I launched number 7, lucky number 7, I knew that and I realized that that was an area that I could an opportunity. So we only have one avatar, one person that we're speaking to in our marketing. And that person shows up looking all shapes and sizes, right? They have different kinds of businesses, but the core desires that they have, their value system is all the same. And the way they look at priority is the same. They may have different preferences. So in the sense of some people have preferences around like, I'd rather do the minimum version and I'd rather spend my time than money. And so I'm okay with watching, the recordings or the replays. I'm okay with having things at a distance. I have other clients who like same mission, same value system, same trajectory preference. Can you just show me? Can you just do it for me? And they're willing to pay to have somebody else do that. And that's how I make the money model of the business actually work.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So you're still meeting the same person, but they're just approaching their problem slightly differently, it sounds like.
Exactly. It comes down to preferences, right? Some people when they go to a restaurant, they always default to the cheeseburger. Other people, they always default to the chicken Caesar salad, right? Or whatever the thing is. Like people have their preferences, but you can still serve people who want to have lunch.
Yeah. Well, and it sounds like that audience piece is really the biggest thing. Because if the thing that you need with a membership to make it viable is a level of volume, you need a certain number of people to actually get in there. So, what are ways that people can build up their audiences that don't feel like pitch slaps, like you were saying before?
Yeah, that's such a good question. So I think the first thing is don't treat people like they're just leads. Treat people like they're people, you know? So think about having, I think what really works when we're working together is you have some background in hospitality, because like that's exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah. Is just like recognizing and anticipating the needs of other people, not being like hyper disruptive and instead being of additional service to what they are wanting to do. So I think like a hospitality mindset makes a huge difference. But it's not just how you think about this. I think it really does come down to what systems you have in play. And that's the
1000%.
reason that with Claire Venue Inner Circle, you get access to Claire Venue OS, not an ad, just telling you. The reason is because you need a system to help you prioritize who you're going to reach out to today. You need a system to identify those opportunities. I got an inbound text from someone that I didn't have in my phone today, but because I have my system set up, I was able to cross-reference the number, update my phone, of course, but cross-reference the number and realize that she was continuing a conversation we had like 3 weeks ago. And I think a lot of people are
Wow.
not equipped to be able to pick up like that. Like from her perspective, she's continuing a conversation, it makes total natural sense. From a typical business owner's standpoint, if you're actually making sales, if you're actually making moves, you've probably had like in 3 weeks, easy to have 150 conversations with different people. And the thing is that I think a lot of us, we don't realize it until we put a system into place. And we are often not equipped to deal with the speed ups and the slowdowns of what a natural, trusted relationship actually feels like. And so we try to keep it all in our head. And in your head, you're dead. Like if you're good luck, if you're driving past the grocery store, you're not going to remember to pick up the milk, right? When do you remember to pick up the milk? When you're recording a podcast, for example. And like, that's just how fun our brain is, it's not really designed for our maximal productivity. So having a great system. But then I think the other final thing that I'll say is that in order for this to really work, you need to have a conversation that carries on. It's not going to be like I talk to you once and then you come join my membership or really anything. It is rare to have somebody that just like meets you, falls in love, wants to get married at any level, right? Whether you're talking about premium or low ticket. And I think something I really didn't anticipate is that when you're talking about low ticket and you're talking about selling through landing pages, through videos, through, hands-off kinds of means, is that the number of times that someone has to see the message, the frequency they have to see it, the consistency that you have to operate with in order to earn that trust is way bigger than most people realize by like an order of magnitude. So to that, I say like having the support system, having the clarity of your reasons that you are pursuing the goal, and good energy management is really key. And nobody talks about this stuff. They all think it's the tech.
Actually, 100%. Well, and actually, I wanted to ask you about that piece because you mentioned that a lot of your people are making money off of their higher ticket offerings, and like that's what's paying the bills, that's what's getting things to tick over. How do you right size your effort when it comes to a membership and like getting it launched well and making sure that it like sustains and is growing? Because I know my instinct would be to either A, way overcommit because it's my new baby, it's my new project, I'm excited about it. Or B, when I'm exhausted and it's not really the thing that's paying all my bills anyways, to let it fall to the wayside. So how do you like hit that sweet spot?
Such a great question. I think that it helps a lot to have a level of stability in a different offer. So if you have a private client or set of private clients, like do not let them go because you've suddenly fallen in love with this idea of monthly recurring revenue. You do need to strike a balance. But I would say that that's actually the same as if you're like in a job and you're thinking about building a business, a side hustle. I mean, it's kind of an 80-20 thing where if 80% of your income is reliable, you need to put your 80% of your energy, towards that. and realize that a membership or a monthly recurring revenue or a community of any kind is a significant investment, and it's going to take time to get the traction with people. And then what happens is that people can start to bring people. You were asking about like what's the best way to like keep it going. I think you got to make the program damn good. You've got to make the offer like irresistible, like just a no-brainer. But also, how can you engineer it so that your community, when other people tell strangers about it, they're proud to tell people about it, and therefore like there's this reputational thing that can come into play. That's a long game. And a lot of people, they're looking at it as like, oh, I'm exhausted by my job or I'm exhausted by my business. And so I want to do monthly recurring revenue to deal with my exhaustion. And the thing that's going to help you with your exhaustion is sleep and going to the gym and eating and having good friends and like actually addressing the underlying problem, which is an energy issue, not actually a business problem. So yeah, I kind of ranted a little bit there, but I think that it's important. It's important to understand, like, if you're having a hard time sustaining energy, address the energy. And it's okay to have more than one thing going at once. The key or the secret is to make sure you're earmarking that 20% of your available time. And hey, like just being real, when I had a 9 to 5 and I was going on maternity leave, like it's not like I was sipping Mai Tais on maternity leave, which would be weird anyway. But it's not like I had like this big luxurious break. If nobody's ever told you, childbirth is a pretty physical act. And
Whoa,
so
what?
yeah, it really is. And so, and also babies eat every 2 to 3 hours. It's bananas. So I was in a pretty exhausted state. And I still was finding 8 to 10 hours of time during that leave to do the effort of what it took to ultimately launch that business. You know, it wasn't because I just was touched by the business gods and blessed with this ability. It was that I committed that I wanted this goal to happen. And so now there was probably still an element of luck. How lucky was I to do it back in 2017 or so? Very lucky. And I think there's ways that you're lucky now too. So, you know, the thing that you can control, you can't control for luck, but you can control for your effort. And if you really want this to work, it might mean getting up earlier or working later or sacrificing something on the weekends.
1,000%. Okay.
Mhm.
Nice 80/20 rule, nice energy management highlight. Because if you're tired, you're still going to be tired with recurring revenue. Just saying. Is there anything else that you just really wish that your clients knew when considering a membership, or do you feel like we've done a pretty solid summary? What do you think?
I think this is a pretty solid summary. I would just generally say whenever you're doing something new, follow people who have done it, right? It could be me, it could be other people. Read about it, do the math, get a spreadsheet out, right? And figure out what it actually takes. And just remember there's no such thing as something for nothing. There's definitely trade-offs involved. I love it. It was the right trade-off for me. You might do it and find out that you hate it. So, and that's okay too. Before we go, I want to make sure that we let everybody know something about the show.
Hey, Amanda here, and I am looking for guests for this show. So I'm looking specifically for established entrepreneurs who've figured out a thing or two about how to make this business thing work in the context of a real life. So if you would love to sit down for an episode of the Amanda Kaufman Show and let me pick your brain in front of the people, then make sure you apply at clairevenue.com/the-podcast. Link is in the show notes. Let's get back to the show.
Back to the also known as the show. I'm learning how to do ads. So, yeah.
Amen. Well, and with that, guys, if you loved this episode, please let us know down below. Leave us a rating, leave us a comment. If you have any questions about memberships, or maybe you have one that you're already kind of trialing and you're running into some roadblocks, do let us know. We'd love to go into it deeper with you guys. Otherwise, I hope you have a good rest of your day, and we will see you next time.